Hey guys, Derek here, and today I want to talk to you about the Align DFC rotor head. Specifically, I want to talk about the Align DFC plastic dampers that go into the rotor head and how occasionally, depending on how the tolerances stack up in manufacturing, they can fit a little bit loose in the main rotor hub right here. What this can do is cause the blade grip here to have some play. So if I try rocking this up and down, you would feel a little tick of play in this area due to the damper fitting a little bit loose in the main rotor head. So we're going to go and take a look at some of the components and see why this is occurring and how to resolve it. Okay guys, so here I have an Align DFC rotor head that I've taken apart for demonstration purposes. I've got the main rotor hub and the damper here, and these two matched together actually are a little bit of a loose fit. If you see here, the damper actually just falls into the hub with no effort. And actually, if I put it in here and move it around with my finger, there is a little tick of play within the rotor hub, which is no bueno. Similarly, if we take the spindle shaft here and I put the damper in, and I put the spindle shaft through to try to maybe expand the damper, it actually still has a little bit of a sloppy fit in there that I can feel. It's a little bit hard to see on the camera, but maybe if we look at the end, you can kind of see that there's some movement there, and that's all originating from this damper, the outside of the damper to the inner diameter of the main rotor hub. As this plastic damper fits very snugly on the shaft, it actually takes a little bit of effort to move it. So to resolve this, what I found works the best is to actually use some packing tape, believe it or not. And what we're going to do is cut a small strip of the packing tape that's going to be placed inside of the main rotor hub here. And what that's going to do is take up the little bit of slop between the damper and the main rotor hub. And we're only looking to take out a few thousandths of an inch here. It's just barely any little bit of play inside of the main rotor hub here. So you're not going to use a lot of tape. In fact, you might be shocked by just how little I'm actually going to place on it. But I found this not only takes the slop out, but it actually lasts for quite some time and keeps my rotor heads tight for several hundred flights. Usually I'm taking them apart and re-greasing the thrust bearings or something before I notice any slop in the dampers. And I've also noticed that my links that go to your swash plate here, these plastic links, since they're not being subjected to the forces they would be if this blade is allowed to flap in flight, the plastic link is actually lasting quite a bit longer than it otherwise would. So I would highly recommend doing this if you feel any tiny tick of movement in your rotor head. And again, like I showed in the earlier segment of the video, if you can imagine this all assembled, if you grab your blade grip and move this up and down towards the camera and feel any play whatsoever, you're going to want to go ahead and do this mod. So I'm going to cut some tape to fit until I get it to be about the right size, and I'll show you guys what that looks like. And I'm also going to clean the inside of this out with an alcohol soaked swab just to get any oil residue here so that the packing tape sticks well. So we'll be right back. Okay guys, so I've gone ahead and shimmed the hub with the packing tape as previously described. Again, make sure you clean the inside here with some alcohol just to get any oil residue from greasing your dampers off. That way the tape will stick really well. As you can see here, the tape takes up about half the inner diameter here of the main rotor hub in my particular case. Depending on how tight the damper fits in for you, you may have to use less tape or you may have to use a little bit more. This is actually a little bit more than what I usually wind up having to use. But in this case, this is what allowed me to place the damper into the rotor head with the right fit. So if I go ahead and place it in, you can see that there is now some resistance as I push this in. It isn't so hard that I've got to push on it really hard. I find if you have it that tight, it just tends to scrape the tape up and it doesn't actually serve the intended purpose of shimming this damper nice and evenly. So you just want a nice snug fit, and that takes up the slop between these two pieces. And if we put the spindle shaft in here now and try to move it, it is rock solid, perfectly tight. And this is going to minimize the movement to your main blade grip linkage, again, as we described before, and it's going to allow that linkage to last quite a bit longer. That's my tip for tightening up your DFC rotor head. Again, I highly recommend it if you have any amount of movement in your rotor head that you can feel.